Quick question, can you name the President of the United States? Of course you can. Can you name the governor? Probably can do that too. Now, can you name the members of your local school board? For a lot of Americans, the answer is no. That's pretty remarkable because if you have children in public schools, some of the politicians with the greatest influence over your family's everyday life may be people whose names you don't even know. So today, let's talk about the hidden power of school boards. Most people don't spend much time thinking about school boards, but consider what they may help determine in your average family's life. Who leads your school district? How millions or sometimes billions of education dollars are spent. Curriculum priorities, transportation, just to name a few. Facilities, big one. And depending on state and local law, decisions involving charter schools and other educational options. Now, these aren't insignificant decisions. They can affect your child's education every single day. And that's actually one of the great advantages of local school boards, in my opinion. Education is intensely local. And the needs of students in Newark, New Jersey may be very different from the needs of students in rural Iowa or suburban Texas, for example. So local governance can give parents and communities a direct voice in how their schools operate. And you don't necessarily have to travel to Washington or your state capital, right? You can speak during public comment. You can organize other parents and sometimes directly elect the people making these very decisions in your community. That's democracy that's pretty close to home, in my opinion. But there's another side of this as well, right? Local control only works when the local community participates. The school board elections can receive far less attention and participation than presidential, congressional, and gubernatorial elections. And when participation is low, a relatively small number of highly motivated voters can have an enormous influence over the direction of an entire school system. Now that's one potential downside, but here's another. School boards can become political battlegrounds. Yes indeed. I've seen in my lifetime fierce debates over curriculum, religion, school choice, parental rights, discipline, and what children should or shouldn't be taught. Now, disagreement in and of itself isn't necessarily bad. Democracy is supposed to include disagreement. It's good when it's dirty, right? But there's a difference between debating education policy and turning every single school board meeting into yet another front in America's national political wars. And when that happens, something important can get lost. The students. And there's also the issue of expertise, right? School board members are responsible for enormously complicated organizations. Large school systems can have thousands of employees, hundreds of millions of dollars in spending, very complicated labor agreements, federal and state regulations, special education requirements, transportation systems, and enormous facilities operations and needs. Yet, board members may arrive with very different levels of experience in education, or finance, management, or public policy. That makes another responsibility incredibly important, the hiring and overseeing of a strong superintendent. Now, a good school board should establish goals, demand accountability, represent the community, and ask very difficult questions. But board members also have to understand the difference between governance and management. The board should make sure that the ship is heading in the right direction, but it shouldn't necessarily try to steer it every 5 minutes. So are school boards ultimately good or bad? That's the wrong question in my estimation. School boards are powerful, and like almost every institution in democracy, that power works best when citizens actually pay attention. So here's my challenge. Before the next school board election in your community, find out who's running, learn what they believe, and ask whether they understand budgets, right? Ask how they define student success. Ask how they'll hold superintendents accountable. Ask whether they're willing to listen to parents they disagree with. And most important, ask whether the decisions will actually improve outcomes for children. Bottom line, because you can spend all day arguing about what's happening in Washington, but while you're watching Congress, someone much closer at home may be deciding what happens in your child's classroom tomorrow. That's the hidden power of school boards. This is Rights and Reason, the thoughts of a former elected official, law school graduate, and current husband, father, and advocate sharing his practical insights on politics, culture, education, faith, and leadership. Subscribe to the channel, like and share the content, please. And remember to think, it ain't illegal yet.